Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the EUWChallenger Series number 12. This is now the semi-finals or second round, as Pulse would say. But regardless, this is Copenhagen Wolves, and they are up against Haydals Fight Club. Pulse is here with me today, and who do you feel is really the favorite going into this?
Yeah, second rounds and first semi-finals, and we have another semi-finals later on. Copenhagen Wolves will definitely be the favourites. They've won several Challenger Series on the bounce, and with the main lineup, they haven't had any changes. Todd was subbed out a couple of weeks ago because he was on vacation, but now with their full lineup, they're looking incredibly strong. Still sporting Reckless until he makes the switch over into Fnatic. They're just looking unstoppable, especially from what we saw yesterday in the quarterfinals. We'll see what this new team of Haydals Fight Club can bring to the table, but already in Champion Select picks and bans, Elite, Zach, Lee Sin, and Joven banned out.
Yeah, I mean, versus Refuse Gaming yesterday, Copenhagen Wolves pulled out two 20-minuters that looked like they could have been over in 15 minutes. As it happened, you know, they did a fairly good job of kind of acquitting themselves, Refuse Gaming, but they were clearly outclassed, and these bans, nothing too surprising here, I think you'll agree. We got the Elise, the Lee Sin, the aggressive junglers banned out, we got the Zac, we got the Zed, strong mid laner and top laner respectively, and, well, okay, it's jungles, it's top laners, and Zed, basically.
Yeah, definitely not looking for these sort of tankier champions to be out here at the moment. That does leave out many strong picks, both in the bot lane in terms of support, AD carries, and of course the mid lane. Most likely you do expect to see at least one of the support band, such as Fresh, which has already looked like it's going to be picked up by Copenhagen Wolves. Another main one would be either Zyro or even Nami, who are definitely in the top tier of supports, along with Sona, who are immediately picked up by Haydals Fight Club.
So, to my mind, that seems like Haydals Fight Club are kind of signaling a little bit of an intent there. They are not looking for a kind of defensive style of gameplay, both in the lane, in that bot lane, and in their team fights later on. Sona works much better as an aggressive support than either Zyra or Nami, because that tidal wave, not so great for kind of getting that engage. It's not as fast, and if you compare it to the Stranglethorns as well, Stranglethorn's really solid crowd control, but it does take a little while to activate and it's short range, so more used as follow-up or disengage. But regardless, Copenhagen Wolves picking up Vi, which you will be pleased to know, and Ahri.
Outstanding. So Vi is my favourite champion and my most used champion in solo queue. I have my own certain way of playing Vi, and I'm always interested to see how other people play her, and in terms of item build and play style, because she's a very strong aggressive ganking jungler in the early game and has great utility into the late game. Her ultimate can make it sort of easy for him to get separated from her team, because the ultimate operates in the same way Twisted Advance did. If you think back to Season 2, we saw a lot of Maokai, and it would carry him a long way if someone used Flash or a 90 caliber net, something that was a gap closer or gap increaser, putting her out of position. So, you know, there are fallbacks to the ultimate, but again, very aggressive plays coming out, and that's exactly what we expect to see from Copenhagen Wolves. Yeah,
they have been really dominant, as we've mentioned. Ahri versus Lissandra mid lane does seem to be something that's coming up a lot lately, and Svenskeren did lock that in, though I doubt he'd be playing it. It's a possibility, but, you know, quite unlikely to see Lissandra jungle. But regardless, it's a really kind of skill-based matchup, but Ahri does have some issues with getting locked down, with getting bursted out, because it's not easy to miss with all of Lissandra's stuff. Not easy to juke out of the way with the Spirit Rush. We are also on the verge, I think, of seeing the standard Renekton pick. We may have seen this before, I don't know, Pulse.
Yeah, possibly. Renekton in the top lane is very solid, that he doesn't have too many bad matchups. He's generally a lane bully. His transition in the early game to mid game is very strong, does tend to scale off into the late game, kind of like how people viewed Lee Sin in Season 1, was that he would have great early damage, but then he would just become a CC bot, and that's definitely what Renekton falls into that category. Looking at Lissandra in the top lane, again, usually going to be Lissandra in the top lane, because, well, her kit is kind of trends towards that. We do see her in the mid lane sometimes, and also they might swap up because of matchups, but that's what we expect to see. Lissandra versus Renekton, both very dominant.
Yeah, Lissandra would have to play a very careful game against Renekton, playing the keep away and don't let yourself get stunned game, and it's very much a tricksy one, because you have to deal with the slice and dice multiple directional, as it were, jumps from Renekton, and it's also faster than the Glacial Path out of Lissandra, but assuming Renekton is unable to land that stun, he's really got nothing on Lissandra. Q harass and better wave clear will come out. See if she can manage to make that work, but she could be in the mid lane here, which is kind of what I would expect in this case, because Aatrox has been locked in along with Shyvana.
Yeah, so Aatrox coming out so early is again an ambiguous pick because we see him in the top lane, we also see him in the jungle. Gives them more variety in how they choose to pick out the rest of the their own picks in their lineup, because they could put it in the top lane, they could also move it to the jungle if he has an unfavorable matchup, and as a result they're putting him in the top lane. Aatrox has crazy amounts of sustain, and honestly a lot like Nasus at the moment. We've had multiple discussions about this, Buddington, about how Nasus is so good at the moment in the top lane because of not only his sustain but his ability to not really get shut down. But onto Aatrox, again, he really can't be shut down. His aggressive plays coupled with Blaze of Torment, which is a very low resource and high damage ability for what you're putting into it in terms of points, and he only really needs 1 point in his W, is of course heal and extra damage, the Bloodthirst, to actually get that sustain in lane. I think it's only an extra 5 per rank on the heal. Of course, that does double when he's below 50% HP, but that you only need 1 point for it to be effective.
Yeah, I think it might actually triple when he's below 50% HP. Don't quote me on that. But regardless, we are into the delay timer now, so while that ticks down, we will just go into a quick commercial break. So see you in 2 minutes 30, ladies and gentlemen.
Hello and welcome back to the EUWChallenger Series number 12, first semi-final of today, and I'm actually going to cut myself off because level 1 action happening, Castor finds himself caught, Flash comes out, Ignite drops, and Youngbuck dropping incredibly low, one more auto attack, headshot charge by Haydals, now with the entire team of Copenhagen Wolves backing on off, no casualties come out, but a plethora of summoners come down.
Yeah, very, very close run thing there. Cassadar went extremely low and Youngbuck, both of them kind of tanking for their team. Couple of summoner spells used. We had the Lissandra Flash. Youngbuck, I imagine, did much the same. And also the odd Ignite, but shouldn't cause too much of a change in lane dynamics. Lissandra going to have to play a little bit more careful than perhaps would normally, but she's always got that Glacial Path anyway. So not going to change too much. Unlimited, heading actually to find their Shyvana. We'll see if he goes for any deep wards.
Yeah, alright, awesome. So I'm going to finish off the intro. First semi-finals of today, we have another one later on. And this game is Copenhagen Wolves and Haydals Fight Club. Copenhagen Wolves I already mentioned. And it doesn't look like we're going to have any invades as you just mentioned yourself, Spuddington. But as soon as we have some downtime, I will mention Vi and how much I love her as a champion. And at the moment, good counter-warding coming out from Mixer, just making sure they cut off some of that vision from Wolves, at least in the first couple minutes.
And I think it's worth contrasting this level 1 gameplay from the gameplay we saw yesterday on Team Refuse. They actually got invaded in that upper jungle. They didn't actually meet each other, but they simply allowed Copenhagen Wolves to walk in and get those deep wards down, whereas and they didn't even get any counter wards in return. Whereas in this case, not only have they denied deep wards by having that level 1 fight, but they've also they've actually just gone and pink warded, gotten rid of it. Youngbuck taking a bit of harass in the top, but they've actually gone and pink warded away the vision from Copenhagen Wolves.
Yeah, Shook has read this and as a result will be going for the enemy blue buff, assisted by Unlimiters, who shouldn't have any troubles doing so. As he started red, he'll have the level 2, so should be fairly sustained. Svenskeren picking up the blue buff, and both these junglers starting off very equally. Both junglers also warding the enemy jungle and the respective blue buffs. So, in fact, Shook will be clearing it up with the timer, but when Shook eventually goes to his own blue buff, then he'll clear it, and the team of Haydals Fight Club will still have the timer on it.
So, to my mind, Vi is an aggressive ganking jungler. Pulse, I know you have played a lot of Vi in solo queue, and you have a remarkably good win rate with her. I mean, we are platinum players, not challenger, but what do you think is going to be Shook's objective as a whole with her?
Yeah, he wants to be very aggressive, and I know Shook is a very aggressive jungler. He likes the likes of Lee Sin. Meanwhile, on the bot lane, Freddy just takes some punishment. We haven't spoken about the 1 versus 2 matchups, but we'll touch on that in a minute. Vi will look to, well, aggressively gank, as you mentioned, he's an aggressive ganking jungler. In the mid game, I would like to see a damage build, and then more into tank. I feel she can swing 2 damage items because of her mobility. Generally, as a jungle, you build straight tank, 1 damage item, such as like of Aatrox likes to go for Blaze Rune King, then straight tank, maybe ancient Golem on top of that. But Shook currently 1 versus or 2 versus 2, just helping Youngbuck farm underneath the turret. But I would like to see a more damage orientated build from Shook.
Yeah, she does have that natural synergy with health items, but equally, you can kind of, as a result, build stuff like Frozen Mallet, build stuff like Phage, and still get your kind of double-dipping defenses while building a bit of extra damage. Although, again, I'm going to just ask you, do you feel something like a Phage or a Frozen Mallet is necessary on her? And actually in top lane, aggression.
Yeah, and here's aggression from Shook, exactly what we're looking for. Haydal pops himself back with 90 caliber net, returning some damage with Piltover. Mixer supplying what he can with his auto attacks, and forces back the aggression. Svenskeren coming in from behind to see if he can, 1, get the counter-gank, and 2, maybe get a kill out of it, or at least stop them from doing very much and push it towards the tower. And actually, Good Smite comes down. I think that was onto... No, it wasn't onto the cannon minion. Interesting.
Alright, but it's a 3-on-2 situation now. Aatrox continuing to solo lane that bottom lane, but Shook doing some pretty good wave clear there with the excessive force. He is maxing that, and we have also got Aatrox taking a bit of harass in the bottom lane. But pushing race-wise at the moment, I feel that the Caitlyn lane is definitely going to come out on top. Even though there's good wave clear to stop them, just that harass from the range and the relatively poor wave clear in bottom lane from Copenhagen Wolves is just going to mean this tower will drop so long as they keep applying this pressure and nothing alleviates that.
I really like this from Svenskeren, seeing that they're moving into a 2 versus 2 lane, which is a typical play if your lane is having a hard time, which Youngbuck definitely is. And Azudort has moved himself up to top lane, making it 3 versus 2 and maintaining that advantage. So not only do they have the shoving power of Haydal and Mixer, now putting Svenskeren into the mix with Burnout, they should easily be able to pick up this turret and perhaps a kill onto Youngbuck, moving himself back with Slice and Dice, but Blood picked up by Mixer, now moving on to Shook, looking for the second kill. Auto attacks come out, and he's forced them away from the sanctuary of his turret. And Svenskeren, all he needs to do is back on off. Barrier popped, and Mixer finishes off a second kill for his double kill in this early game.
That is really, really huge. Copenhagen Wolves are actually looking like they're going to take it down this bottom tower relatively quickly themselves, but that's not going to make up for how badly that is going to, well, damage the chances here, because Shook still hasn't even respawned. Svenskeren is coming back in, and this is when jungle buffs are going to be starting to respawn. He's going to be able to get in position to get those wards down and look for counter steals, and he's also now ahead on XP, ahead on gold, plus Youngbuck not getting the start he wants.
Yeah, so I'm looking at the jungler matchup right now, and I'm just thinking how it amplifies what Shyvana does to an enemy jungler, because Shyvana, if you take her as a champion, she's a counter jungler. She farms the jungle incredibly quickly, doesn't really need innate movement speed because of burnout, doesn't even need to run movement speed quintessences, and doesn't need to go mobility boots. It's all built in. So as a result, she can build more damage, or she can go even tankier, doesn't need to sacrifice any of those stats. But Vi definitely wants to go for ganks. She almost never counter jungles and doesn't need to counter jungle. Will, obviously, if the buff is there or if the small camp is there. But Svenskeren can really do some damage, whereas Vi will always be looking for kills. And in fact, just farming her own jungle and then going to red because of the respawn. Currently going on to a pause timer because we have a reckless DC, which is, well, less than optimal when you're trying to win a game, 4 versus 5. But back to the junglers. Svenskeren can do some real damage to Vi because she'll always be looking for ganks. I think in a nutshell, that's what I really need to see from Svenskeren here.
Yeah, we'll see if he's able to make that happen. Has now hit that level 6, and that's going to mean he is both pretty strong on the resistances front. And by the way, Pulse, I can never remember this. Does Dragon deal physical, magical, or true damage?
Which, sorry? I missed
the dragon, the objective, dragon.
Oh, right, okay. I think it's mixed. I think if you die to dragon, it says mixed damage. So I would hazard a guess at physical damage, but I know Baron does both.
I'm just curious, because it makes you... It makes actually her stronger thinking about since the rework, because she now has the resistances without having to pop that ultimate. Oh, well, she makes her strong because she'll be more resistant to the damage from the dragon, in theory, assuming armor and MR. So it was just a thought which occurred to me. But I would like to note the bottom tower that Copenhagen Wolves have been pushing really, really, really hard is down on like 10 health. And the last person to recall out of there was Reckless. I think he actually DC'd and would have gone back to finish it off.
Yeah, and I'm actually recalling in that situation might have been a little detrimental. Not sure if he actually wanted to go for it in the first place, but it wouldn't be not a guess, which would be wrong because they need that control over Dragon. Of course, the bottom tower is even more valuable than the top tower because, okay, yes, they can swap around and have the duo lane go against the duo lane, but taking that tower will help with map presence. I just took a look at the wiki while we were talking, and Dragon does physical damage, and his debuff does true damage. That's why it says mixed damage.
Okay, so it's essentially auto-attacking then, using the normal... Yeah. I would check if he has like a set AD amount, but sadly I can't move my camera because we're paused.
Attack damage 145 and attack speed 0.658, which is actually fairly standard for AD carries.
Yeah, about like level 11 or 12, I'd guess. Yeah. But also worth noting right now, Caitlyn, Haydal there, has 12 AP. I don't know if anyone told him. No, wait, Sona Q. That's it. No worries. I am Twitch
always
chat.
Throws me off. Yeah. Like when you're at spawn and you always panic because you think that you've messed up your masteries because you have 4 AP or 4 extra AD or something, always screws with you. But Svenskeren just dipping into the jungle, putting down the aggressive ward, getting that knowledge of Shook, and he'll know that Shook is looking for ganks over farming, so that's a very wise place to put him, moving himself into the mid lane. shifting through the gears. Can't get anything done just as of yet. But now hitting the level 6, he's going to hit Power Hour in terms of ganking. Svenskeren finds himself at blue buff, looking for the invade. Lissandra at the top side, charging up the Vault Breaker. And Svenskeren still in the mix, he's still in the brush. And doesn't quite get the steal out, but 1 versus 2. Can he finish him off before Cassadar comes over the wall? Glacial Path comes down, splitting up the fight, and has split Aria away from his allies. Haydal now coming up along with Sona. Bot lane hasn't reacted quite yet, but now spots the Spirit Rush, goes straight through the entire lineup of Haydal's Fight Club. Interesting decision, but gets him out of dodge.
Yeah, it was actually very, very nice decision making there, because due to the terrain, the only way he could essentially keep using Spirit Rush in a straight line was to go through them, and they just didn't have the instant CC available. Sona was still not level 6, and other than that, I don't think they really had anything in position to take advantage of that charge straight down the middle. As it happens, though, she got out, and plus she had the lantern waiting for her in that direction, which is kind of a big deal as well. But there is a fight that's going to probably kick off over this blue buff. Artrox got it? No, I'm dumb.
Yeah, Svenskeren actually steals it away. Dragon's Ascent comes out, looking for the same in repetition of the Ari play. Now Frozen 2 comes out, could be an easy double kill. Shook picks up 1, falls in return. Kaltard from the side. Cassadar backs on off, also cut off along with Young, but Flash comes out, sealing the deal, picks up the kill, and the second kill goes on to Kaltard.
Yeah, nicely played once again, and Copenhagen Wolves regaining quite a bit of ground right now. Mixer in the bottom lane has been caught out a little bit by the death sentence, but actually just turned it around onto Thresh there, so nothing really to comment on, apart from the fact that possibly Thresh there was slightly overestimating his own health.
Yeah, it was actually Mixer who was catching out Fresh and had both of them on the run as a result. So Fresh turned around and tried to pin her down underneath the turret after she had pursued him, but it was just trying to do what he could in a bad situation. Didn't ignite because he knew Reckless couldn't follow up, and now the shove has come out. Meanwhile, Kaltar looks for the gang, also with Vi from the lane, lands a perfect charm straight into the damage with Ignite, looking to cut off Mixer. It's a nice try, jumps into a trap, but this is surely his demise. Shock still following up the auto attacks, and will probably look to donate this to Reckless.
Yeah, he's a surprisingly tanky Mixer right now. Going to be actually walking away out of the tower. There we go. So I was wondering if Reckless had DC'd again. But they will be able to take a dragon off the back of that. Svenskeren nowhere near, and Lissandra, well, no, she's not really going to go in 1v4, I think. Decent guess to say that. Freddy continuing to push this top lane, but it definitely feels like Copenhagen Wolves are taking the grip of the game again. This is kind of what we tend to see from them a lot. I mean, they can, if they get kind of control of the game early, they push it really, really hard. If they lose control early, they tend to just stall it for a little while, and then they wait for something to happen which lets them regain that control again, and then they snowball it. That's kind of why they keep winning games. But in this top lane, Young Buck may be in trouble.
Yeah, Glacial Path comes across into Dark Flight, just tags him with the Ice Shard, but nothing really to write home about. And as we have a little bit of lore in the action, I'm going to talk about Vi. So, I'm looking...
Of course you are!
Of course I am. Mobility Boots picked up, I do not disagree with that. Double Ruby Crystal, because they'll both build into an item he'll pick up later on. And he's actually maxed Excessive Force. I would like to say that I personally maxed a Vault Breaker for 2 reasons. Vault Breaker's scaling in terms of damage is way higher. Actually, what you get for Excessive Force is very small. I think it's 15 extra damage per level. Cooldown goes down, yes, but so does Vault Breaker, not only giving mobility, but for your second skill, you can level up her W, which is Denting Blows, and that will result in more DPS and more burst. And because Vi is kind of a more bursty jungler when it comes to damage, a lot of it is up front. Vault Breaker into auto attack, and then Excessive Force procs the third auto attack like Silver Bolt, and then does the extra damage for Denting Blows. So as a result, you're not only getting that synergy, but you do more damage at all stages in the game. Hashtag mathematics.
I'd be interested to hear, you know, a high ELO jungler on that kind of question than myself. I just literally can't comment because I have not seen enough of Vi. It's certainly something that I see almost all Vi's doing though, maxing that Excessive Force. You are pretty much the only one I've ever seen that doesn't.
Yeah, I know, and a lot of the guides I've read as well have also just said Excessive Force because Wave Clear and Jungle Clear. but you also get that from Voltbreaker, and since she's an aggressive ganking jungler, it upfronts her burst. Her burst is even higher, and her mobility is higher. And she is, of course, a very mobile champion, one of the champions you like to pick up mobility boots on, so there's no real reason not to. I guess it's preference. There are characters in the game where it's not like, I need to 100% go for this ability because it is best. A lot like Aatrox with his Blaze of Torment. Almost everyone will pick Blaze of Torment because it's simply the best.
Okay, I'm sorry. That triggered song lyrics, and I couldn't stop. But I did stop before I started actually singing. Kassadar in this mid lane does have that potential to initiate the gank. Freddy is sitting on a ward though, so Copenhagen Wolves kind of have the advantage here. They have the information advantage anyway. Kaltod going in.
Yeah, Spirit Rush comes down, looks for the charm, lands it onto Aatrox, and jump over the wall from his shot. Huge damage comes out, follow up from Youngbuck as well. Bloodwell still available, pops him into his passive, with Dragon's Den knocked aside with a fantastic Vi ultimate assault and battery. And Youngbuck clears out the rest of the minions. No kills actually go down, but the timing on assault and battery was amazing. Catstar finds himself caught there, one more auto attack from Reckless, and that's all they're really looking for. Kaltod throws out a charm just in case to block off that path, just in case he aggressed onto him, but that's all they really had to say. And Limited also drops in the process. Haydals and Mixer from the side don't choose to engage, and that's the end of the hostilities.
Yeah, Unlimited there got caught out roughly in the Dragon Pit by Haydal and Mixer, who, in spite of the fact their team kind of lost the fight overall, are now going to be free to shove this lane hard. And Haydal is not far behind Reckless in terms of farm right now. 124, yes, on Reckless, but Caitlyn with this bloodthirsty components right now is good at sieging towers at this stage of the game. So, going to be strong in that respect. Will maybe not be able to get anything more done. Are going to be reinforcements coming in from Copenhagen Wolves soon, but doesn't look like they're showing any signs of slowing down.
Okay, so I would like to say that Zux30 in chat has just informed me that Mesios and Koreans like to max Q first on Vi, and then they do the same as me and max W. Ahead of the times.
Maybe you are, maybe you are. Nostradamus Pulse.
Well, I mean, you're pretty ahead of the times with NASA's top. I mean, Matt, you're talking about it for quite a while now, about how just unstoppable he is. You just can't shut him down. And I think people are starting to realize how really strong that NASA's top is again.
Yeah, I'm pretty convinced it is, but Kassadar in the mid lane could be in trouble here.
Yeah, doesn't quite get caught by the charm, but doesn't matter. The raw damage output from Kaltod picks up the kill. First swing, Over Deception picks that one up.
Yeah, so, I mean, you know, since not a lot is going to happen right now, Ari, yes, did just kill her opponent mid laner, and yes, she'll be able to harass Svenskeren, but he's too tanky to kill, and she can't really siege the tower too strongly right now. NASA's top has, yeah, as you mentioned, is really, really strong. I think it's particularly strong in solo queue because concentrated jungle efforts can shut him down. But in that solo queue scenario, he is just so unbelievable because even if you fall behind by 2 or 3 kills in lane, just 1v1, so you take teleport back in and don't lose too much XP, you will eventually hit critical mass on your queues and just be able to murder anyone. Mixer there just got tagged by the ultimate from Reckless. He was spotted. He is now in a horrible spot.
Such a good ultimate, and this will surely secure the kill, but Shut finds himself in the middle of a trap, uses Assault and Battery to catch up. Kaltod here to seal the kill onto Mixer. Almost for a second I thought he was going to make it out with the next level trap from Caitlyn, but wasn't actually the case.
It was kind of amusing, but in the end there's only so much a Sona can do in a 4v1 scenario. Apart from that, wait, is it Aria of Celerity? Her E. She doesn't really have much to escape with. And I've got to say, actually, right now, it feels like Copenhagen Wolves are going to take this tower almost uncontested. Yes, Kassadar, Svenskeren, and Freddy are pushing really, really hard right now. But I'm not sure if Freddy's going to be able to take out that tower. And that inner tower, that outer tower there in mid, that was kind of going to fall anyway, very, very low. Hook lands on Svenskeren.
Yeah, Hook connects, and Kaltod quite can't deal the damage in time. Ace in the hole comes across onto Kaltod as well. Now Kaltod looks for the initiate. Frozen Tomb comes out, and the box. Huge AoE damage, scattering the entire team of Copenhagen Wolves. Moving now onto Shock, trading off very well. Now Youngbuck comes into the fray. Ignite comes out, looking for the second kill on Svenskeren. Pack popped into Bloodwell. Reckless drops low. Now life stealing off the race is not enough. Picks up one. Youngbuck is still brawling against the entire lineup of Haydals Fight Club, and eventually goes down 3-0 and the Dragon.
Karthus, please. That was a really, really nice fight there by Haydals Fight Club. Reckless getting taken out of it very, very quickly, and Young Buck just left isolated and alone. There's only, I mean, yes, he's good in that environment. He's a character that likes to dive in, but not to the point where he has literally got no follow-up at all.
Yeah, according to chat, Magus actually just pointed out that Freddy's Bloodwell only just came up. And I've got to say, chat, you were on point today with the facts. But that was such good timing. If they had actually timed that fight around Bloodwell, knowing that they could be more aggressive, that was superb.
I think from what I saw, he timed his own usage of it. I don't know if the rest of his team were aware that was going to happen, but he did bait it out deliberately. And it popped up, like, right on point. Kind of what marks out a really good League player, by the way, is how much information you can keep track of. And that's kind of why, for instance, Mad Life is an incredible player in career, because he keeps track of, like, everything in the game. But the thing there is, I mean, he knew he wasn't going to die from that. He knew if he basically went into the brush, went down, they wouldn't actually necessarily know that he'd revived. And even if they did, there wasn't a lot they could do about it. They just kind of committed to get rid of him. And that wasted wasted their ability to do that and wasted a bunch of cooldowns. Mixer, I don't want you to go there.
Oh god, this is surely going to be at least a kill onto Atrox. Bloodwell is down, gets dropped almost in an instant. Svenskara comes across with Dragon Descent. Haydals now comes into the scene. They're still underneath the turret, but still trading off. Picks up 2. Now with Great Frozen Tomb in response. Castar still on the aggressive. Svenskara leading the charge with Burnout. Flame Breath comes across. Haydals now following up, looking for one more kill, but lacking the instant CC. Flash into Piltover, maybe baiting out the... Oh, wow! The friendship tester doesn't actually work out and picks up the kill onto Fresh. He was trying to turn around for the death sentence, but got dropped in the process.
Yeah, he was a little bit too far out, and Young Buck has only just managed to push up to the tower. They haven't been able to get much out of that Copenhagen Wolves there. Yes, taking a small advantage, and now Shook is going to kind of threaten Haydal, but I very much doubt he can dive the Infinity Edge Haydal here. So... yeah, that fight was interesting, actually, because Reckless was the one who was out of position there. He overcommitted. He was caught out by the Frozen Tomb and just could not deal with anything after that. That's just too much burst. And in a really clumped fight like that, it's also worth noting, Shyvana outputs ridiculous amounts of damage.
Yeah, I've actually seen a couple Shyvanas pick up Sulk Boots because so much of their damage is magic damage. Dragon Descent, Burnout, pretty much anything you can think of in terms of her abilities. And she has the on-hit extra damage now from Flame Breath, which hits multiple targets. So there's no real reason not to as a damage alternative. Of course, you can go for Merc Treads or you can go for Ninja Tabai, which is way more common in terms of tankiness. But honestly, Sulk Boots are a great damage alternative.
Yeah, I've played AP Shyvana before. I don't do this, kids. It's terrible. But she's, yeah, it's one of these bizarre things. You can actually run Shyvana top lane as well. And I believe ages and ages and ages ago, Moscow 5, who are now Gambit, used to do much the same thing. Copenhagen Wolves are pushing up and pausing the game. Don't know exactly who has disconnected there. Probably Shook, looking by the direction he appears to be going, according to my mini-map.
Yeah, so it's they kind of paused at the most tense moment possible, because we know, or well, we kind of know either a tower is going to go down, or they're going to fight over it. So it gives us a couple seconds to kind of think about it. I'm not sure what I was going to say. It sounded like a kipple, which sounds like a type of dog food, which is not what I'm talking about, but... yeah, it kind of gives us a little bit of time to think about how the team fight is going to go, as well as how the teams are going to structure their team fight, what they're going to initiate with, and lots of mind games as well, because when you're in this situation, you're thinking, alright, so what are they going to do first, and what are we going to do first? Are they going to just actually turn around and run? Not sure if this is the fight that they really want, whether these are the droids they are looking for. Unlimited over the wall, looking for that kind of hook, and engage comes out from Young Buck. This will be the counter initiate. Facial Path comes down, Box as zone denial. Haydals from the side, and then the gap closing with Assault and Battery, locking them down 1 versus 2. In the meantime, his front line is decimated, absolutely evaporating, and picks up a kill in return. He's done the damage, though his team can follow up. Great slow comes out from Svenskara, but it's not enough to keep the rest of his team alive. 3 for 2, and in very healthy shape will be Copenhagen Wolves.
Yeah, they definitely came out on top in that fight, and it was just simply Crescendo not really getting what it needed to be doing there, because Mixer was just jumped on by Youngbuck. He was not ready for it and got focused down really, really hard. I think he did get the cooldown off, but didn't really achieve very much with it in the end. And I was going to actually say, I'm kind of expecting, as these fights progress, Copenhagen Wolves to actually start losing them more. And I want to qualify that statement, because basically Reckless has gone for this Trinity Force Last Whisper build. That gives him significant burst, makes him good at kiting around and avoiding getting Lysandra'd. But I think Copenhagen Wolves are going to have problems initiating fights as this game progresses. And I know you're going to be jumping to the defense of your waifu in the form of Vi.
Of course.
But, always better. But, so, problem with her in this scenario is that when she ults, it's going to be dragging her to whoever she goes for. And every single person, except for Sona, has a blink. Kaylin is also capable of, if she gets caught by Vi, she's done something wrong, because she has only got, that range. And the net's kind of bad at getting away from Vi. But the thing is, any of those three guys, if they, Freddy, Svenskeren, or Kassadar, if they get out of position, Vi is going to find it hard to initiate on them properly, because they are too slippery. They can drag her out of position if she chooses to go for it.
Yeah, take the individual champions as well. Haydals Fight Club scales considerably better into the late game and also the very late game. The problem is right now that Vi has gone for a tank build, so has Renekton, and both of those characters scale off in terms of damage unless you build them damage, but they really can't without being bursted down. One of the reasons I like to pick up Guardian Angel after 2 damage items on Vi allows you to be that more aggressive while keeping that damage output, and cuts off some of that problems. Hook goes over the wall, Sultan Battery onto Mixer. It looks to focus someone down immediately, but that doesn't quite happen just yet. Kaltor's going around the outside of the fight. Kassadar drops low along with Haydal. Godlike comes in for Kaltor, picks up the kill onto Mixer, and Freddy drops. Haydal also low. He can't output the damage. Reckless follows up, picks up another kill. Triple kill comes in for Youngbuck, looking for that Quadra. And now 5 for 1. Great trade for Copenhagen Wolves.
And everything fell into place just perfectly for Copenhagen Wolves this time. They actually do need to be careful about Baron right now. I don't think many of them have sustain. They are actually going very, very low. This is quite dicey for them. We'll see if they can manage to actually do this, because Reckless, he hasn't got a Vamp Scepter, which is causing them quite a lot of difficulty, but I think they will get it. So, close run thing, but they do get the Baron. That fight was so perfect for Copenhagen Wolves. You saw Cowtard, you mentioned Cowtard. He was free to skirt around the edges, throwing out multiple full combos, doing all the damage to all the right people. Haydal wasn't able to put out much damage in that fight. And then you had Youngbuck in the middle, and I said this before, he's really good in that situation, of 3 or 4 people just spewing out damage all around him. And you may be able to hear my cat. I'll let her out after I finish speaking.
I did indeed, and I get to assume it's Sabriel, the resident cat on Splittington's mic, but Haydal and Svenskeren just farming up the jungle, and Drake is the next objective, and I'm interested to see if Haydal's Fight Club actually go for the aggression onto this. The last couple of team fights have been very telling of how the game is going in general, because they've been losing them, but 25 minutes into the game honestly feels like a lot later. This is one of the first times I've seen Copenhagen Wolves on the back foot just for a little while, and the team fights have been very close, and I like the scaling from Haydal's Fight Club. They could definitely pull it back if they have the stalling potential, which they definitely do in the form of Lysandra and Svenskeren with Burnout, and indeed Blades of Torment, a great wave clear ability.
Yeah, they just have to make sure they play the game they want to in these team fights. They can't afford to get death sentence, and they can't afford to let Sona get jumped on. That is kind of the critical factor here. Haydal also has to maintain a position where he won't get murdered, and actually, at the moment, Aatrox in that top lane was split pushing. I think maybe stuck around too long up there. But for now, it's literally a stall game for Haydal's Fight Club. They should be able to do a fairly good job of it, but they are up against Shook, who is very, very tanky and will just freely tank individual shots.
They have some control in the form of the traps just to keep them a little bit further away. Lands a great death sentence onto Freddy. Not sure if they want to go all in, and Darklight comes up. So now it's just the the matter of whether they can wave clear fast enough. Cazador goes to the side, and they're opening up into the tower so quickly, chunking it down to 50% HP in a blink of an eye. Here comes the crescendo for the initiate into Dragon's Descent. Youngbuck on the sidelines, and Svenskeren gets knocked back into the team. Great assault and battery knocking aside the entire team. 2 for 0 so far, and Freddy ripping apart the members stuck in their base. Left stranded, Haydals drops Freddy into Bloodpool, but there's no way he can get out. GG has already been called by Haydals Fight Club. The exits come out, and this is surely the game picked up by Copenhagen Wolves in the first game of the best of 3 in the first semi-finals.
Yeah, very nicely played by both teams there. Much closer than most of the teams we've actually seen against Copenhagen Wolves in recent weeks. Haydals Fight Club definitely had a chance at winning that, but they definitely also lost it at that fight immediately before Baron. They were pushed up against their tower after that, and you saw Haydal having such a hard time getting close to the fight. And the fact that they were forced to initiate because they were being sieged meant they also couldn't rely on just kiting out that Vi. She got on Haydal. He didn't put out any damage. And Youngbuck, Reckless, Coutard, everyone just kind of tore them apart. But as you mentioned, that was the end of the game. And we will just get the players into the next lobby. So see you in just a minute, ladies and gentlemen.